Hello, seventh graders. Happy day to you. I have here the start of a video that is sharing with you a few big tidbits about the colonies and about the British and how there was some tension growing between those two groups. Okay. On this video, I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of a bridge from one week to the next. So you might remember last week when we were still in class, we were working on recording notes in our quarter one notes page. When we were recording those notes into our quarter one notes page, we had this title and this subtitle. The colonies develop and direct instruction for October 19th through the 22nd. This was something that you already wrote down. On this slide of our presentation, it shows you the main question we were trying to make sense of last week, what factors allowed each colonial region to grow and prosper. You, in your quarter one notes, you were writing down all of those colonial regions over here. New England, Middle, Southern, and the backcountry. And then you were recording all of these factors and then all of like the research and the details and the info. Okay, that's where you ended off last week. So this is where our new notes start this week. Okay, this is our direct instruction for October 26th through the 30th. So before you start to really continue to watch the rest of this video, I would get yourself set up. It says, hey, seventh graders, reminder for you when you're taking notes, you want to be able to be organized, put time into taking quality notes because you are able to use your quarter one notes page to help you take assessments in the future. Okay, so your notes are a tool that you can come back to and reference. I also would suggest that you have the dual screen option up on your iPad screen. What I mean by that is you have two windows that are open at the same time. One window is this YouTube video, and then the other video is your quarter one notes page. So then you don't have to keep flip-flopping between notes and the YouTube video and notes and the YouTube video. You can be typing while you're watching the YouTube video and have both screens or both tabs open at the same time. Okay. I also would suggest that pausing the video is always an option. Some of these slides have a lot of info on them, and I wanted to make sure that, with Screencast-O-Matic, I only have 15 minutes to record. So if you feel like I'm going really fast, it's not because I'm trying to rush you, it's just because I'm trying to fulfill all of our notes in that 15-minute limit. But if you are needing to pause to take your notes, please do that. Okay, so you have your direct instruction for October 26th and the 30th. You are going to be expected to write that title down so that it helps you with your organization. Okay, so let us begin with our new content. Okay, it says economic growth helping the colonies develop. First of all, we have to answer that question of what the heck is economic growth? Economic growth is the growth of the standard of living of a nation's people from moving from a lower income to a higher income. So when the quality of life is improved, that means there's been economic growth. So there was economic growth in the colonies. The following examples are all factors that contributed to the colonies growing. First bullet point, it says many of the colonists had values of working hard to see progress or accomplishment. Second bullet point, it says some colonists were able to take advantage of the great soil they had and grow cash crops. The third bullet point, another thing that helped with our economic growth, was that colonists realized what resources they had in their colonial region, and they traded with others to make a profit. The fourth example of economic growth is really a sad one. The start of early slave populations helped with cultivating those large plantations. That was a huge factor in helping the economy grow, but in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, not a good way to get there because of slavery and the ethical part of it. Again, remember that you can pause. I'm going to move on to the next slide. This slide is titled Early American Culture. These items helped colonists shape our early history. So one, that first bullet point, we had leaders who were creative and always thinking about what's next. How can we improve? How can we be the best group of people that we can be? So in the upper, I guess this guy, Benjamin Franklin, he's an example. This is Thomas Jefferson. And this is James Madison. Now, I know that sometimes we look at these pictures and we're like, oh my gosh, these are old dudes. But honestly, those men, along with many other, Americans, they have really shaped our country. Okay? The second bullet point, it says more colonists were valuing education and learning to read and write. Whoa, that third bullet point, holy moly, yes, we were beginning to be a diverse population. There was a great variety in the people here. Therefore, that brought many different viewpoints. The more people you have, the more ideas you have. The more ideas you have, the better that development of your own country's independence is going to be. Some big ideas. So we realized that some colonists seemed to be thriving. The British leadership saw that thriving and wanted to profit from the colonists and their growth. You might remember throughout research that the British were having to pay back some war debts and things that they said, ooh, if we can tax the colonists, we can get that money and pay off some of our debt. Well, the British, that third bullet point, it says the British began to create acts that forced colonists to do or to not do certain things. Clearly, this would definitely irritate colonists because they were realizing that their independence was very important to them. They didn't want to have to be responsible for someone else. They wanted to be responsible for themselves. So that independence was really driving some future events that were going to take place. So at the bottom half of this box here, it says these were all examples of ways the British tried to control the colonists. These are just basic examples: Navigation Acts, Molasses Act, currency, sugar, stamp, quartering. All of these examples were ways that the British said, ooh, we can get money from the colonists and use it to our advantage. Well, colonists said, you didn't give us any say in that decision, and we're put in a position where we're upset. Okay? On this next slide, it shares, okay, so not only are colonists kind of irritated with British right now, in some of our research, you may have found info about the French and Indian War. A few bullet points here. It says the War of 1754 to 1763 between Britain, France, and their allies for control of North America. The French had set up colonies and established a trading relationship with the native people of North America. This, I think, though, the last two bullet points are the most important to kind of conceptualize, to make sense of. It says now land claims and rivalry among European powers, settlers, and Native Americans led to war that united the colonies against a common enemy. This event taking place really showed the colonists, like, oh my gosh, we can band together and achieve something. We can be united and we can fight against something that is happening towards us or against us. And we can see really awesome things like our independence coming. So this is definitely, in my opinion, foreshadowing for our American Revolution. This, I believe, is our last slide. Yep, it is. This question of what traditions, events, and forces helped form our American identity. So in the middle here, it has a circle. It says, how is our American identity forming? Each of these boxes show a different element of how our identity was shaped. So each of us as individuals, we have identities, right? We have different personalities, we have different opinions, we have different backgrounds. Well, we have to look at that as a bigger picture, larger scale of the United States as a country. How did our country's identity form? So in the lighter yellow up here, it says education. High levels of literacy, Americans being able to read and write, and education in some regions, that was a huge part of how our American identity was forming. It gave our American colonists a way to read information and speak and write information, to share ideas. They weren't just going to have ideas and not share them. They said, I have an idea. I want to share it. I think this is the way we can be our best country or our best unified, independent country. In the green, it says politics and law. Colonists shared legal and political traditions that came from England. They expected to enjoy the rights of Englishmen, meaning like they had rights. Well, sooner or later, the colonists started to feel like those rights were being taken away by the British. It also says Enlightenment writers help spread ideas that people can improve or change their government. This was really inspiring for colonists because they realized, oh my gosh, like if we work together and we have common ideas, we can see some pretty amazing things happen. Next, it says in the kind of the light orange, it says religion and ideas. Great Awakening unifies colonies and challenges tradition. So this Great Awakening is this period of time where people are really realizing like we can have our own ideas and we can be whatever we want to be. So I love this word unifies. Brings those colonial settlers together and it shows them we don't have to be in that traditional way of life anymore. Like we can create the way we want to live. Next, when we move to economy, it's kind of the purplish color. It says better economic opportunities in the colonies, more chance of owning land. We wanted to be independent. We wanted to have our own land. We wanted to have our own family. We wanted to establish ourselves. That was a part of our American identity forming. Next, in the blue, it says war. French and Indian War united colonists against a common enemy. You typed that from the previous slide. And then publishing. Colonists realized again that they can share their ideas, their information in the form of newspapers and books. And it's like today with social media, we can share our information, our ideas through the internet, through social media. Back then, with newspapers and books being something that was available to them, they're like, oh my gosh, we get to share our ideas and get more people to follow our ideas and to get more people to support us and fight with us. Okay, so this is your last slide for your notes this week. Feel free to rewind at all right? I expect you to take notes because, again, remember, the better notes that you take,